The reality is people want to be famous, want to be wealthy, but underlying pattern of wealth and success comes with you gotta take risks. You absolutely have to take risks, and there's always going to be a no. But there's a difference between taking stupid risks and difference between kind of observing all the wisdom that other people have told you. If you're going to switch around and this thing is not going to be trading, you're allowed to switch, but better not be that many switches. You're allowed to be successful in something else than trading, but that kind of mentality is very dangerous because if you're not successful with trading, you're going to try something else and then you're going to try something else. Once this becomes a pattern, you're not going to be successful. Do the wise thing, don't take excessive risks, and trust that when you're doing things right, things are going to eventually reverse. But hoping that the market's going to make you happy? Are you insane?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dimitar Kirchev. I'm the host for Trading Patterns. With me is Mr. Nikolay Stoykov. Hello, Mr. Stoykov.
Hello, Mr. Kirchev, and hello to our lovely audience.
Today's episode number 18.
Number 18.
Trading in the Zone.
Trading in the Zone.
Are we gonna interact with the famous book Trading in the Zone or not really?
Maybe to a degree. But we have some still unfinished business from episode 17. After we filmed it on the way back, Mr. Kirchev reflected on the story where I basically refused to cheat on the test. So basically just to remind our audience, the situation was I'm going to assessment test, and an hour into the test I realized that I may be unable to finish it because test is not that easy. It's not that hard, but it's not that easy. And basically 5 minutes before the end of the test, I decided that I'm not going to cheat, and I have maybe 40 questions out of 100 unanswered. And I decided to turn it in. And on the way home, Mr. Kirchev suggested that I'm Buddha. And I told him that I'm pretty sure I'm not Buddha and I'm 98% monkey. And started to think why exactly I didn't turn it in. And everything is complex in the real world. And I didn't even realize before he asked me why I didn't turn it in, but then I got interested and said, I'll find out why I didn't turn it in. And the reason I didn't turn it in is that I had the privilege of working and maybe with many smart people. One of the smartest people I've ever known verifiably. His name was Nelson. Nelson was part of my trading class at Susquehanna, one of the 10 people that we got hired to do. And Nelson was a 23-year-old with a PhD in advanced mathematics from the university.
At the age of 23.
23. From the University of Michigan. He completed his bachelor's degree in 2.5 years and completed his PhD in 3 years, which is a record times. So my thinking goes that probably Nelson is 1 in 10,000 smart. I haven't worked, and I'm not 1 in 10,000. And I haven't worked with him and haven't done mock trading with him. I realized that Nelson might be smart, but he's not faster or necessarily more correct with kind of mundane, calculations. So multiplication, division, addition, especially if you have to be done faster and under pressure. Nelson is not necessarily one of the fastest, certainly not obviously faster than anybody. He was probably average speed. Where Nelson excelled is if they give you a page or paper with kind of Greek letters describing volatility services and other complex materials, he would probably grasp the material much better than anybody else. So intelligence is kind of skewed toward abstract thinking. And the test was nitty-gritty details. So it wasn't an abstract. It was basically calculations, but all calculations were not very easy. So I concluded that even if somebody as smart as Nelson was taking this test, which is a big if, there is no way he's going to finish much more questions than me. And the kind of like the result to get majority of the questions answered correctly would only occur if you actually get to practice the test. So I figured that I didn't cheat on the test because I thought that if the test was very important, I could claim that I didn't feel very well. I'm clearly a smart person, and it's very obvious that this format is new to me, as evidenced by the fact I didn't answer 40 questions, which I didn't have the time. If I had taken the path to cheat and if I tried to answer all questions, 100 questions, then it gives you in the uncomfortable position to argue that, hey, I know I didn't read or didn't correctly answer the questions, but I tried to guess anyway. So your negotiating position for that kind of like action is less strong or much weakened. So yes, the idea behind this is integrity keeps doors open that you don't know about. Even though people have told you, hey, we're going to send you to take the test, there is too many unknowns. What if you don't feel well during taking the test exam, or you start feeling bad, and maybe you'll be offered another time. And if they offer me another time and this test was very important, I'll probably do much better now that I know what the test was about.
So that's an interesting back door leaving open by being integrous.
Right. Yes. So just to do it. Right. Training in the zone. Training in the zone, or at least I had like a different name for it. We could call it like also the right values. But before we get to like trading in the zone or the right values, we need to give a little bit reference to the book. There is a book by Mark Douglas. It's called Trading in the Zone. There is another Trading in the Zone, I think, by Kirchev, but we're just going to mention Mark Douglas. And we're going to mention the book only as a reference to how I read books and how I read or kind of check everything. So the most famous kind of, I guess, story from Trading in the Zone from Mark Douglas, which most people remember and I remember, I really don't remember much outside that story, is about the boy that's being bitten by a dog.
So, right, the dog story. Yes. I also remember it.
So the story goes something for the readers that haven't read it or have read it, is a young child sees a dog for the first time, is very curious, approaches the dog. The dog is not so friendly, it bites him, causes pain in the child. He speaks neutral. He doesn't say boy or girl, but we assume that boys are more curious and or maybe more mischievous. So since then it becomes like, a story. And then he develops fear from dogs. And he kind of like observes that there are other people that are not afraid of dogs, and many dogs don't bite anybody. So he's aware of this internal contradiction that he has, and he develops a friendship with like a person that has a dog, and he feels conflicted, but he likes that person, and despite the fact that there is a dog around him sometimes, he hangs out with that person. And once, unexpectedly, the dog approached him without him realizing and licked his hand, and the boy felt some sort of a strange, a sensation in his body, and overcame his fear of dogs. That's kind of roughly how the book goes, right? I mean, did I?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So first one, we're going to go to Wikipedia and we're going to check. So is there such a thing as fear as dogs? It seems like there is fear of dogs, and it's one of the most common animal phobias. Okay, so it's definitely possible to have fear of dogs. Unfortunately, that fear usually shows up at the age between 5 and 7. And it's more likely, like 70 to 80% of the people that suffer from that disorder are women rather than men. So we immediately see the contradiction in the story, how it's told, is that if this is a young boy that sees a dog for the first time, my experience tells me that he will forget about it. So he will not develop a permanent fear of dog. Moreover, fears of dog is developed between the ages of 5 and 7. So, and can be developed by either direct exposure, either you personally being bitten by a dog, or indirect exposure, observing somebody being bitten by a dog. Just so that we know all the kind of possibilities. And then they talk about treatment for the disorder. Treatment of the disorder is exactly as Mr. Douglas described, controlled exposure to well-behaving dogs. But this is not some sort of a one, or like in one series, or like, one sessions, or package of exposures. It needs to be done regularly, continuously, and it's very unlikely that the person would ever completely recover from his phobia of dogs. So we immediately see that the story is quite optimistic, probably never quite happened, and it's not realistic for most people. So yes, the other interesting point that I want to give about the book is my statistics on traders says that traders do not pay for psychologists. So, and Mr. Douglas was some sort of a psychological kind of help to traders. And this is some sort of like a fable that people assume it's true, that you have a psychologist on the trading floor. That psychologist would help people trade.
But in the series, Billions,
Right.
they had a psychologist on the floor.
They had, but
It was a woman.
Yeah. I mean, people could try different things and it could help, but in reality, most people don't do it because this is not what ails the trader. He's not the psychology, and we'll go to it. And what ails the trader is incorrect expectations and incorrect values. And we're going to go to the kind of like the different kind of errors that could happen with this thing. But yeah, we would just want to finish I think my experience or my opinion on the people that are afraid of dogs. And this is possible for a trader due to some sort of kind of tragic or rather dramatic price action to develop temporary fear of the markets, in a sense, kind of like freeze. This would naturally should kind of disappear within several days or a week, and usually is treated by trading with a lower size. So it's quite common for people that when they crash car, when they've been experiencing a car crash, to be a little bit more cautious once they begin to drive again after fixing the car. But if this fear persists and doesn't really disappear after, a reasonable time, that person is no good for trading. So if a trader develops such a devastating fear of the markets, akin to like fear of dogs, he's probably not fit to the profession. And again, this kind of phobia, I guess, would develop in people that are a little bit more sensitive, as given by the fact that many of those phobias by the women. And so in my experience, it sounds very kind of like interesting and possible, but as I said, most problems for the traders are not resolved are not due to psychology. They're not due to psychology. They're due to other factors, and psychologists can help, but that help is very limited, and many of the mistakes are much deeper and could be only discovered by another trader with more experience usually, and could be fixed only if the person that's doing the errors is willing to put effort into it. Yeah, to put effort in it. So if I have to tell what's the real problem with traders, and it's not the freezing in the market. If you freeze to the market, it's normal experience, but you should really get over it after a short time. If you can't get over the markets, fear of markets of losing, even by reducing size, this may not be the right profession for you. But this is the pattern. The pattern goes something like this. One of the kind of traders asked me, he was talking about a friend that didn't know why he smoked. And I said to him, I do know why he smokes, even though he doesn't know. And I do know how to help him stop if he could do all the things that I tell him. First one is, why does he smoke? Imagine the following situation, Mr. Kirchev. You are at a club, I don't know, a bar, a restaurant, something like, night setting, and you observe like a female acquaintance that you've been acquainted with, a year. And your friends on social media, Instagram, whatever, Facebook, and you haven't interacted with each other much. So she pretty much hasn't interacted with you. So and she's very jovial, very energetic, very charming. You speak for quite a bit of time, and then she decides to go for whatever reason. She's leaving. She leans over and her breasts touch your shoulder for a little bit. And she whispers in your ear while you smell her perfume, how you look good, and why don't you call me? We hang out sometimes. Do you like that? Is that a nice setup? What do you do when that happens usually? What do most men that are aged in their 20s would do after an encounter?
I don't think I should say what they would do.
My experience would tell me that most people in their 20s will go home and masturbate.
Exactly.
It's too much excitement. Yeah. Let's continue the story. So this happens, on a weekend, and trader contacts that woman, in a few days. And she kind of makes some sort of excuse that next weekend is not good for her. Let's get touch base the following week. And he writes the following week, and she doesn't even reply. She sees the message but doesn't reply. Right?
Okay.
You know what I call this phenomena?
What?
I call this phenomena, she flirted and left the room, but I used to call it, she farted and left the room. Because it feels that way. Yeah. A few girls flirt and leave the room. A few stocks flirt and leave the room. And we get this kind of very wretched, feeling of, sensation of kind of decay, or I don't know what to call it, unpleasant feeling. Just
it's like we are being old.
Yeah, we're being old. It's like, people are playing with us. People are like, using us, and they're just not treating us correctly. How could this happen? And what a better way to like wash off this kind of aftertaste, bitter aftertaste, than with a cigarette and alcohol. And after a while, you stop caring about the stock that flirted and got away. The girl that flirted and kind of left the room gained weight, so you're no longer attracted to her. But the habit of dealing with resentment stayed. Yes, the habit of dealing with resentment stayed. And and this is what we're going to do. We're gonna observe, and I'm just gonna give you like my personal journey of how I observed it and the steps I took. And there may be another way, but this is the most kind of my way and the one that makes sense to me. And I don't know if it could be done any other way. Maybe it's possible. Maybe other people have done it. Maybe they were not conscious enough to think about the reasons behind each step. So first one, we're going to observe that we are incredibly negative. So a typical scenario would be, let's say the good people on the elevator you're trying to catch see you running for the elevator, even though the door is closing, they kind of hold the door and you get on the elevator. Has that happened to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're thankful to the people, you maybe even thank them.
Yeah, I say thank you.
Yeah. And how long you're thankful for? Like 5-10 seconds? Something
Yeah,
like that.
seconds.
Enough is enough, right?
Yeah,
You did your favor.
I
but
move on with my day.
yeah, I did you a favor, but didn't give you like $1 million, right? They just did you a favor. Let's flip that around. And the people are not so good and don't hold the door. They don't really press the button to close it. So they're not vicious, but they don't make any kind of extra effort, even though they see you running for the elevator. Has that happened to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
How long you on thankful for?
Quite long. Quite a long time. Has the possibility to ruin my day.
Right. I mean, this is kind of like the bitter aftertaste of kind of things not going your way. So when things go your way, you're kind of thankful for a little bit, but you hold on to all the things that don't go your way too long, much higher, much longer, with a stronger intensity. That is naturally true for most people. I was once making a speech at the Thanksgiving here at the Large Securities, and I said Thanksgiving is a strange holiday because being thankful is not a natural state of a human being. A human being, comes from monkey. It's naturally resentful, envious, covetous, which means desirous, promiscuous, a gluttonous. Those qualities are there, and they're very easy to reinforce. Being thankful, this is like a very abstract gesture. So first one, with my experiences, imagine this: I'm new to New York City. I don't know how old I was. I was 24 when I went to New York City. I was 25 when I started trading, which means first year I was kind of teaching or time being, developed as a trader, part of the development program. And I'm a first-year trader. So it's 99 and a first-year trader, and I'm trading in the Intel option crowd. An Intel option crowd, basically single listed, all the options are listed on the American Stock Exchange, and I'm part of the front month group. The logistics of this is a little bit, outdated, but just to give you an idea, there's 100 people trading Intel options and divided roughly into 3 groups. The biggest group which I was part of, Intel first month, so first 2 months. Intel middle month, so month 3 to month, 7 or 8, something like that. Intel back month, which is the smallest group, which is Intel long-dated options. Intel crowd is very aggressive, very competitive, especially in the front month. And I'm just a nice guy from Bulgaria that graduated from University of Rochester, a suburb, suburban campus, really far away. And I quickly realized that in New York City, a dog eats dog. I mean, those people are eating me alive, pushing me, shoving me, being more aggressive, kind of being more vocal. And they don't do it all the time, but I constantly see instances where I'm being out-hustled or even cheated on by some other people, taken advantage of. And those kind of instances gnaw on me. And just to give you an idea, this happens everywhere in New York City. So, for example, you go on the subway and there are people like coming behind you that you think that they'll go back. So you make room for them to kind of go behind you, only for them to stop. And now you have no room and you're kind of leaning. It feels like no good deed goes unpunished. And this really made me angry. And I said, Nikolay, you can't take this. You need to toughen up. You need to get more aggressive. So, how do we get more aggressive, Mr.
Kirchev? Talk in an aggressive way in front of the mirror.
Yeah, that would be one, man. I started to go boxing. So, like, I was going running, and I said, like, Nikolay, you need to go boxing. Like, forget about running. That's too peaceful. You need to go boxing. You really need to like do it. So I started.
You never boxed before?
Never boxed before. Never boxed before. I was interested in boxing, but once I realized that I need to be bad and be really bad, really fucking bad, baby, I decided to like really concentrate specifically on boxing and sparring. I mean, there was some like classes that were just kind of like. I'll call it designer boxing, where you just pretty much like
punching the bag.
I went Muay Thai. I went to proper boxing gyms. So it's like I basically go fully, like sparring and like Gleason's was the gym, like in New York, like down in Brooklyn. Anyway, so. I started like listening to like aggressive music, rap music, or like even like Rage Against the Machine. Like my favorite song is "Killing in the Name of," or like So I'm slowly beginning to develop anger issues. So I'm not afraid of standing my ground on the subway. I'm aggressive walking to people. I'm not making room for them to do anything. Once I rented a car and I horned after one person for like a minute, just for spite.
A minute?
A minute. I just decided I'm going to hold it and horn and just drive after him. And slowly things are getting out of control. And remember, I was going somewhere with a friend of mine, with several friends of mine. So we were 4 people in the car. And the taxi driver, once they leave Manhattan, they try. Technically speaking, this is like the thing about New York. They don't want to leave Manhattan. They have to, if you order them, to drive somewhere to Brooklyn. But they make all kind of excuses and they try to squeeze you extra money for doing so, even though they by law required to do it. Anyway, on one of those occasions, like I think the trip was $40, but the guy asked for 60, and I totally lost it. So it's extra 20 would have been, I don't know, instead of paying 10 each, we had to pay 15. And I remember
$5 per person.
$5 more. I remember screaming at the guy who was sitting in the back, and I said, so there's 3 of us in the back, 1 guy in front. And he says, oh, guys need to pay 60. And before even anybody said something, I absolutely screamed. I said, motherfucker, I'm going to beat your teeth one by one, piss in your fucking mouth, and make you swallow, bitch. I'm not paying you the $20. And as soon as I said it,
You said that to the cab driver?
To the cab driver. Dead silence in the car. And the guy just muttered something like, no swearing in my taxi, man.
Okay, yeah, that's a defensive mechanism. He didn't know what to say, but...
Yes, I said that.
What a rude person.
Yeah, angry young man.
Your friends, what did they say? Were they shocked?
They were shocked. They didn't say anything. They were just shocked.
Damn. Would you have done it, or it was just a reaction?
I was that angry. I didn't think about doing it. I really thought about only saying it. Immediately after I said it, I said to myself, what's my downside here? What if this guy actually pulls a weapon, like a knife or, I don't know, like a gun? And I said to myself, oh, I'm going to apologize sincerely.
Yeah, good luck with that. Such a graphical way of swearing.
And then when I went home, Nikolay, I said to myself, Nikolay, you've gone too far. I mean,
Oh, that was the breaking point for you.
yeah, this is the breaking point. So I basically said, you've gone too far. You say something like that to the wrong person, he is not going to accept your apology. He will just blast you. So it's like, when people say don't change, or nobody change, or people don't change, the reality is people can change. And it takes about 3 to 6 months. If you consistently put an effort to become a young, angry man, and this is how you really become an angry man. You start being more physical, and physical aggressive activity like boxing. You start regularly listening to, like, some aggressive music. And in the morning, instead of like, I don't know, enjoying the day, or kind of, I don't know, meditating, or kind of doing something peacefully, you look in front of the mirror and you basically kind of rehearse what you're going to do if something crosses your path incorrectly. And yeah, you do that with zeal and intensity, and you put on kind of effort into it. In 3 months, you'll have anger issues. So it's possible to change. And the reality of this is, what happens is, even though many of you don't go that far in terms of like what you scream at people, silently, I think most people say fuck, shit, motherfucker, or God, Jesus, about 200 to 400 times a day at least. So this is your normal kind of modus operandi, and this is what you normally do. And you normally distribute it, and you never go outside of it. And the easiest way to go outside of it is to go on the downside. If you do on average 200, do 700, 800 shit, motherfucker, with more intensity, just to see if things get better. And I realized that this is useful in the sense that when Buddha says better to be kind than right, it means that there are some instances where it's really optimal not to be kind. And this has happened recently to me. I don't know, maybe recently, like a year or two ago. One stray dog on the street started following me. I kind of tried gently to kind of
Make it back off.
kick it away. It just kept following me. And at some point, I had to like really stop my feet and like, clap my hands and maybe scream a little bit for the dog not to do it. So at some point, you may be forced to be unkind, or maybe optimal to be unkind. But the reality is, this is not gonna resolve many of your questions, many of your problems, and in fact, it's gonna increase many of your problems in the long run, guaranteed. So, if the answer to many of your problems is not being angry or kind of getting more aggressive, then the answer to many of your problems could be on the other side, being more tolerant and being more patient. And how do we become more tolerant and more patient, Mr. Kirchev?
Oh, well, don't listen to, what was it called?
Rage Against the Machine?
Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, don't listen to Rage
Don't
Against
listen
the
to
Machine.
Rage Against the Machine. Meditate.
Okay.
Back to running.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So clearly the music has to change. So music is actually very important. It really goes into our head. I really recommend here Guns N' Roses' Patience. It's like, killing in the name of versus patience. Clearly.
Big difference.
Big difference. Second of all is yes. So like, if you physical activity is important, and something like yoga or running is probably much more appropriate than boxing. So something more relaxing, something that really is and then very important to develop this thankfulness in the morning. What most people are missing, and this is gonna be a like situation that we're gonna go, is incorrectly interpreting reality and not realizing why you're interpreting incorrectly, and most importantly, missing a kind of like a method or way of dealing with this situations. What's missing out of all those things, so if you try to like listen to good music and just stay away from aggressive things, this is gonna return you to a kind of like your state of mind, but it doesn't bring the intensity of thankfulness, so you're probably going to stay there. This is called cultivating meta, cultivating thankfulness. Again, thankfulness is not something you have, and until you reach that point that aggressiveness or more forceful decisions in many areas of your life is not the solution, and you should try to be more kind, very little could be done. So you should really explore the downside and see all the negative effects and kind of like, situations that occur. Most importantly, even if you don't observe them, you're going to observe health problems. But anyway, cultivating meta starts with the most obvious things, with developing a appreciation for our own self. And the two patterns that you cannot go without, one of them is your kind of like your heart rate, and the other is your breath. So we're developing an appreciation for your heart, and for your breath. But I really started with the heart, and the reason is very simple. So you're dreaming about kind of like girls in bikini and a Lamborghini, but you're forgetting that without the heart rate, your heart, which you don't control, you're not going to be alive to have all those things. So this is like a conscious effort. Your mind would actually start to run away and would like to do different things, but we always return to the heart or return to the breath. We develop this. Again, this is going to be slower, but just with the same intensity that you stay in front of the mirror and holding on to anger, you're going to try to purposely hold on to to that feeling of thankfulness for your heart rate, or for your heart, and for your breath. Again, this is going to feel kind of weird, but it's true. So in the sense that, like, invariably you need a heart rate. The idea behind this thing is that, first of all, is many of the things you imagine are incorrect, or just a projection. So we're going to go and observe like several circumstances. The first circumstance is, this happened to me several years ago. We have like a young trader, I don't know, maybe a year or 9 months, less than a year, so let's say 9 months. He had put as a goal to make $10,000 for the 3 months. This one must have been 2017, 2016, something like that. So yeah, it's a lot. 8 years, something like that. And he made $20,000. And
Not 10, 20.
Yeah, he made 20 for 3 months when he was shooting for 10. And I asked him, so on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst and 10 being the best, how do you feel? And he said 6. And I said, why do you feel, kind of like feel sick? 6. And he said, because I could have made 50.
So not only he met his objective, he made twice as much money.
That's right.
And he's angry because he could have made a lot more.
Yeah.
Not angry, but barely happy.
Yeah, barely. The other examples are imaginary, but the a kind of collection of my experience, my personal experience with trader. This first example really happened. Let's imagine that the following 3 months, the trader makes $50,000. Would he be happy? And my experience determined he's not going to be happy, because somebody he knows made $100,000. Eventually, after like several years, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, The guy is in really good condition. He's in tune with the market. Does really kind of aggressive thing. He basically is really pushing his risk limits, and he buys the market near its bottom, holds on to most of the gains, and he makes $500,000 for the 3 quarters, for the 3 months. And there are traders that he knows. The next trader that make the most money is a guy that made $150,000. There's a few people that made 100 and something, and a few others that made, I don't know, 70, 80, some guys 40, 50.
So he's clearly dominating.
He's killing it. Right.
Yeah.
So it turns out that the trader, in order for the trader to be happy, a trader starts with the idea of what's going to make him happy. And as he approaches that idea, he slowly adds things because he doesn't feel that great. So he slowly begins to happen. So if you want to make, 20 and you make 50, if somebody makes 100, you'll be less happy. You'll immediately be sad. So you always want to be, so ideally in a situation, like intrinsically a trader wants to make the most money possible, kind of at the bottom, and sell at the high with the risk limits that he has. And hopefully those risk limits are one of the highest, so makes the most money out of everybody. That's what really would make a trader happy, so he thinks. Again, so he made $500,000 for the 3 months. Nobody else made that close. Other people made money, so everybody's happy. This is very important for a trader. He wants other people to make money, but not more.
Not as much as him or more than him. Yeah, that's a requirement.
It's a 100% requirement. And then maybe he gets the, the state of happiness. Do you think he's happy? What is he going to be unhappy about? I mean, he can't be unhappy about the markets.
Maybe at this point he's competing with himself only. Maybe he could have made $1 million.
No, he's unhappy. That could be one, but he knows that's unreasonable. It's a lot more likely that he's unhappy that women are not lining up to give him blowjobs.
Just because he killed it in the market?
Just because he killed it in the market.
They should line up.
They should do that. They should do that. Should do that. It's like, he should just kind of snap his fingers, and a couple of girls in bikini should show up immediately.
Okay, so unrealistic expectations.
Right. It's not just unrealistic expectations. What happens is in generally, we are born as unthankful. And we add dreams that bring some sort of sugar or juice to our miserable existence. But once we approach them and the juice begins to wear off, we just begin to add more. So what happens is our dreams or your goals is what you consciously feel that things are going to be kind of like better. But in reality, the juice wears off on its own. So in the sense that many of your goals and dreams is what you call it like a big TV. So even if you buy a big TV and it doesn't really disappoint you, after 3 months, it's going to wear out. And the other flip of the coin is if you have to give up that brand new TV for your old TV, you're not going to like it. But again, you get used to it. And this is like a very kind of like, contradictory. But what really happens is your dreams is some sort of like what you project is going to bring sugar to your unhappy and miserable and out of luck experience. And life that you're surrounded by psychopaths and women that don't want to service your sexual dreams. So we're going to go to something that I call dopamine perception creates dopamine view, and dopamine view creates dopamine values. What ails most people is the fact that they don't realize all these connections. So we're going to start with something that's very, very obvious. We're going to start with I've selected this one, and we're going to add it to this one. And this is Miss Eva Murati. Miss Eva Murati is a sports journalist on Albanian TV station, I guess, covering UEFA Champions League. Do you like Miss Murati, Mr. Kirchev? Is she an attractive woman?
She's an attractive woman.
Okay, we're not going to compromise with that one. Okay, she's an attractive woman.
She's an attractive woman, yes.
Do you think most men will find her attractive?
I think most men would go crazy about her.
Right. Did you notice that Miss Murati has a rather large chest?
Yes. Very noticeable.
Do you think that's appealing to most people?
Yes.
Right. The most important thing is to realize that you have dopamine perception. Dopamine perception is that once you get something that's positive, very quickly you escalate it. So first one is to give our viewers, and we'll add it, as Miss Murati has seems like what is obvious to me is a wedding ring on her finger.
Is it a wedding ring though?
Yeah, I think it is. It's on the right hand.
Isn't it supposed to be the left?
Well, in Bulgaria, it's on the right.
Okay.
And the States is in the left, but yeah, it depends.
Okay.
It seems like she had some sort of wedding pictures at her page, so it seems like she's married.
She's most likely married.
Right. The patterns, statistics say that, first of all, women don't cheat on their relationship patterns as much as men. They usually have some sort of reason why to do it. And even if it unlikely as it is when a woman cheats, they cheat in their late 30s at the latest. So the possibility that any of our viewers that's not married to Miss Murati will have sex with her for the next 5 to 7 years are close to zero. Again, so technically speaking, there's, 2 to 400 million women usually around your age group that you could, if we use a standard deviation, there's 8 billion people. And we say that okay, out of all the 8 billion people, 4 billion are women, and maybe in your age group, which would be -7 years plus 4 years, this is kind of 2 standard deviation for most married couples, with median being 2 years, men being older, you're going to generate millions of women that could be your life partner, or you could could be interested with you, you could have a relationship. But the reality, the specialists, the people that are about specialists say most of those relationships, if you try to work them out, are not going to work. And even there is a very small subset of women out of those 2 to 400 million that are actually going to work for you in the wrong way, potentially going to work with. And those will probably come from your extended circle of friends. So kind of hoping that things work out with Miss Murati is probably a pipe dream. So this is worse than the lottery, because you don't give money, but you give expectations. The other thing that we could refer to, the kind of example that we went to the beginning, this is an acquaintance of yours that you met at the bar, potentially, but the true pattern is that she's not interactive with you on a regular basis, even though you're connected on social media. Yeah. So her interaction with you during that night could be sort of an event as rare as raining in the desert. It rains in the desert just once a year, biannually. So if you stay long enough, it's going to rain in the desert. When it rains in the desert, good things happen. It just doesn't rain a lot. So again, if you've known this woman for a year and she's never really interacted with you in any significant way,
besides the circumstances,
and you're expecting that it's going to rain every day, it's just one day. Right. The error that most people do when it comes to trading is, let's say in the US, there is probably 10,000 listed stocks. And 10,000 listed stocks. But in reality, what happens is you're gonna be able to successfully, or maybe I as a specialist or trying to do, would not really venture outside the top 100 stocks in the US, and certainly would never leave the comfort of S&P 500. So even though there are 10,000 listed stocks in the US, 9,500 of them, I would never trade. And the reason is very simple. And this is like, something like I have a blog, and the editor of the blog, she's like, today is Wednesday, and supposed to be published Wednesday. So earlier today, I went to her and said, are you going to publish me today? And she said, Nikolay, when? I haven't published you. This is 100 and something blogs, nearly 3 years. If I didn't tell you by Tuesday that there's a problem, I usually publish you. Hasn't that been the case? And I said, yes, that has been the case. And she said, isn't that enough for you? And I said, no. I said, I need 10 years of experience. And she's like, 10 years? So those 3 years that we've been publishing your blog doesn't mean anything to you? I said, no, it means a good beginning.
You're brutal. You're brutal.
And she said, like, can you throw me a bone? I said, yeah, I could throw you a bone. 7 years.
You're brutal.
Right. The most important thing is to realize that many of your relationships really take 7 to 10 years to observe. One of the curious things that we observe the relationship between men and women statistically, we could say that the first 3 to 6 months, potentially, even though she's probably married, with relationship with most women, first 3 to 6 months would be very good. That would be peak of Mount Stupid. And then statistically, every year after the first 3 to 6 months will be worse than the previous, and will stabilize between around year 10 of the relationship.
10 years.
Yeah. 10 years.
So for 10 years, it will be every year it will be worse than the previous.
On average. For 2-3 years, and then slowly would improve.
After 10 years.
After 10 years. And we could observe this, like Mr. Paniotov, the CEO of Alari, has a boat, and we kind of like have some sort of annual trip with the boat. And I noticed that older people are the ones that really people in 60s and 70s. And I asked him, like, why aren't there like families, like, I don't know, in their 40s? Because you see people that have money in their 40s. Why aren't there like more people, like, family, wife, kids, like go in the boat? And said, jokingly said, if you put like a married one man and a woman in a tight compartment on a boat for about a month, there's a good chance they'll get divorced. Right. This came like one of the traders was like he was I don't know, he was one of the young traders. He said he was living with his girlfriend, and she was pushing him to get married, and he didn't know what to do. It's kind of like seeking my opinion. I said to him, okay, I'll give you. I certainly am in a position, that's why I'm here. I said, how long you've been like dating this young lady? He said 3 years. I said, usually men date, couples date between 2 and 5 years before they get married. So this is not unusual that she's kind of pushing for that. And just so you know, you probably have a year of kind of pushing it off. But once you approach year 5, a woman will consider breaking off things if she doesn't do it. So you could just kind of dribble the ball and delay things for about a year, but this thing's not going to wait, and eventually it will come to a point. So you can't be indecisive. And so the most important thing is to have the right expectations. And then I said, do you remember the first 3 years of the relationship? I said, yes. Do you remember the first 3 months of the relationship? I said, yes. I said, remove the first 3 months. And he virtually jumped. How do you see? Why do they do that? Well, everything is exciting for the first 3 months. Like if you lease a car and then you decide to buy it, it's not like a new car. So it's not going to be the same. So first 3 months is out. So do you remember how was the rest 2 years and 9 months? And then he said, yes. And I said, okay, now that you remember them, take them lower. And then he jumps and says, why do I want to do that? And I said, well, silly. Women don't want to get married for the sake of being married. They want to have kids. And when we have kids, things are going to be more complicated. Like, everything's going to be tougher. So things will get tougher. And then he said to me, why do I want to get married then? I said, I don't really know why I want to get married. From my perspective, the only reason why considerably many people should get married is if you want to have kids. And it's like surprisingly, even with the progress that we made, you can't have kids without a woman. And it seems it's normal that women want to get married. So if you want to have kids, it's normal for
her to get married.
But that thing of like being happily ever after, I mean, that's a pipe dream. So it's like, you're not going to be there. But yes, we are returning again to many of the circumstances that really ail the trader. And this is like, kind of like, this is reminded by yesterday, again, one of the traders was asking me an opinion about the stock. And the stock was so small, we had no Wall Street coverage. So it's a speculative stock. And it had earnings. And I said to him, this is kind of like a very volatile thing about the earnings. It's one thing for the stock to move, but another thing for earnings to move. And then he said to me, but I read the earnings and I think I know where it's going to go. So several errors. First of all, you haven't defined your corner of expertise in the market. You're just promiscuously jumping from a stock to stock based on exclusively on some sort of a scanner moves. And you've never traded that stock. You've never traded a stock that's really close to it. This is a very new thing to you. So we really playing lottery, that even if you have all available information, that you'll make an informative decision. So we have no experience with that stock. Second of all, there is no really Wall Street coverage on this thing, so you can't really see all the projections that people are doing. And the idea that you will be kind of like potentially correctly interpreting the earnings release is just ridiculous. Earnings are very difficult, and it's very obvious that you're not interpreting them correctly, because if I ask you how does earnings report change your earnings for 2026, which is next year, and your revenue estimates for 2026, you don't have any of those. So people focus on the very kind of jump from stocks to stock, understand something about it, but barely understand it, and never really invested it, and move on and to the next stock. And results are very difficult to track, and there's really no degree going on top of over. The most obvious phenomenon or cure for that kind of trading will be actually to write out the reasons why you do that. So there is a kind of like real case. Right. This is like a very interesting phenomenon. So this is end of last year. I started getting very bullish on China. For various reasons, I was very bullish on China. I started reading that they're doing their version of quantitative easing. So once I started reading about this quantitative easing, I basically said, you got to get rid of it. one of the premier stocks that I'm still long, I kind of trade in and out, is Alibaba. So I had first read about Alibaba, or kind of like Norwegian sovereign fund. I think I may have thought about this in previous episode. And Norwegian sovereign wealth fund is over-invested in Alibaba, and I took this as this is a good stock. The stock is universally liked by analysts, even though it kind of halved from 200 to 70, or even went down 60%, 70%. Analysts never wavered support and were all recommending a buy. And the stock has kind of operational history that's really good. And stock is very aggressive. Company is very aggressive buying its stock. Alibaba had bought 5% of its shares outstanding last year. All tremendously good patterns. I had made like the case that I'm gonna buy Alibaba when analysts start raising their earnings. So even though I read this information and the stock was looking very good, I said, you're going to wait for analyst earnings to start rising. It's a good plan, except that when they started rising, stock really took off. I couldn't buy it, and I said, okay, maybe it's going to have a pullback. Stock went from 80 to 120, and I started buying it at 100, which I knew was going to be like not a great price, but I couldn't bear the point that this stock could go to 120 and then continuously go higher. So it's like maybe kind of a little bit not that conservative. I'm going to start buying 100. I started buying 100. Stock went to 91. I at 100 bought 1x. At 91 I bought 91 and a half. I bought 2x. At 84 I bought 2x. And my average price is like 88 and a half. And I go on a podcast, and the stock is like trading at $80, and I give the virtues of Alibaba, even though I'm down 20% of the position. By the time the podcast actually airs, stock is at 100. It has a few weeks later, it has earnings, goes to 140. I sell at 140 and grow into other things. And I recently bought it again at like 119, something like that. The moral of the story of this is, when the stock started going against me, I kind of read all the reasons why I was long the stock. I looked at the colors of all the recommendations, and I basically really reminded myself is, if you've never been happy making money on the stock, really this happiness didn't stay, then the fear of pain, not winning on the trade, is also imaginary. You get used to it. And moreover, you're not using leverage, and all the signs are there. So at some point, you just got to do the right thing. What is the right thing? What is the right thing? It's like you're not using leverage. All the analysts are pointing this. You're looking at the valuation. Valuation is extremely conservative, and they're doing like, some sort of version of QE. I mean, how could you realistically lose on that trade? What is the possibility that you lose on the trade? A lot of money if you have the willingness to hold it for a long time. And yeah, I don't really know.
Sit back, relax,
Right.
and wait it out.
Right. But yes, the most important thing is idea of adding value. It's like making sense. Like, I mean, you could make money by kind of like, playing the lottery, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's a winner of the lottery.
Yeah.
The reality is people want to be famous, want to be wealthy, but the underlying pattern of wealth and success comes with adding values. What is my added value? And I ask myself, is like, am I really a farmer here picking like what to plant? And is my thinking about what I'm about to plant correct? And I felt incredibly confident that those questions were answered yes. And then there is some uncertainty what the kind of like the the outcome would be. But there's always going to be uncertainty. There's always going to be uncertainty. But I was relatively sure that I did the right thing and I added value to the situation. Like this stock was trading cheap and I bought it. And I said, and I'm not going to give it restrictions since I'm not using leverage. I said, if things don't work out bad, my worst case scenario is probably stock go to 70. And maybe if nothing happened within a year, I'll hold it. But yes, at some point, you got to take risks. You absolutely have to take risks. And there's always going to be unknown. But there's a difference between taking stupid risks and difference between kind of observing all the wisdom that other people have told you and following those rules and then relying on the fact that those rules will work again. Of course they may not work. But I didn't feel the negative effect of it. Like I felt that this was doing the right thing. So this is the thing about doing the right thing. It's like,
the integrous thing.
The integrous thing, the right thing. What is the right thing? What is the right thing to do? And that's the zone. So it's like when you have all the negativity that comes to you, fear of all those things, but yet you choose to do it. I mean, this is the hardest thing about trading and making those trading decisions is your body will tell you completely opposite things. Body will tell you to be promiscuous with as much as stocks. It's like there's an opportunity every day. That's true. But in reality, the stocks that you actually can be competent are very few. So there may be no opportunity for those stocks. But there will be an opportunity for some stocks, but you're not going to find them. And that's normal. And the other thing that happens is you really don't do the right things. But all those right things comes with the idea that I feel negativity all the time. I basically, this is like the example, like a real case. So I go outside the building and my street in front of my building is one way. So in the middle of the street, there is a car that's parked the opposite way. And this is like early in the morning, like 8 o'clock, and parking enforcement starts at 8:30. So first observation I make is this car is parked incorrectly, right? That's normal.
Yeah.
Second one is this guy will get a ticket and should get a ticket.
Okay.
It annoys me for some reason. I don't know why, but it annoys me. The second one is what could have possibly caused this person to park this way? Because this is like a very unusual position. And in my opinion, it appeared to me that it's harder to park it the wrong way than the right way, but maybe he was drunk. That's a normal thing. Maybe he was on drugs.
Yeah, drug addict. Something.
Right. Maybe he's, I don't know.
Child
pedophile. Right. I get there in 5 minutes. The most important thing is that you're extremely going back and forth. Things annoy you. And you cure this annoyance. So you see a car, you see some guy cutting you off, you see like another injustice in the world, and then you see the picture of Eva Murati. And this is your opportunity to be happy. And all those are illusions. So all those are illusions. Everything is difficult, and even though Mrs. Morati is very beautiful and attractive, relationship with her probably very difficult. So it's like, even though she's has this inviting pose, everything in this world is difficult or extremely difficult, and in between. There's nothing easy. And yet I'm going the easy way and saying this is clearly an illusion. And this is where Buddhism, people get suicidal. Because the world is some sort of this very horrible place, close to hell. And everything that I see that could kind of bring me kind of sweetness into this world is also an illusion, but it's your only hope of salvation. So you need that Lambo, and you need, I don't know, Miss Murati, I guess, or something like that, to sweeten your miserable existence. The truth is something different. The truth is something different. The truth, we're going to add this, this is the kind of life expectancy of average human being, is given by our world of data taken out of Wikipedia. So this is those two very, basically what would tell you is that for years until the 1900s, so I guess there are statistics going back to like Jesus's times, average life expectancy was around 35 years. And we've seen a massive explosion in life expectancy on all continents, starting with the 1900s, late 1800s, and continuously now. What I say is that we see a tremendous explosion in life expectancy, GDP growth, kind of reducement of child mortality, kind of like, victims of crime globally. I mean, statistics say that this world is going for incredibly positive transformation.
2.5 times of life expectancy.
That's right.
We're good.
And yet most people think, what happens is most people think you live in hell because your nervous system goes always negative. So being in the zone, or like, having the right values, is always to realize that negativity, negative outcome, or extreme interpretation of reality, like extreme outcome, either really good or really bad, is most likely an error. And it's kind of like an adjustment relative to the sniper to know that this is probably not true. This is probably not true. And the truth about, like, Miss Morale, if we have to do it, will be statistical. So it's like, how many, like, does she come from a family that, I don't know, are not divorced? How many boyfriends she has? What kind of men she likes? This is all statistical. The idea that she likes people like me immediately is very extreme. But the reason why or the sex will be with her will be really great. But the reason why you don't want to make that compromise is because you're so kind of cursing the world. So you're constantly going extremely negative. And the reality is to experience that kind of slowness and the idea of being thankful. It's like, this is an incredible time. This is an incredible time. The life that you're leading, even if you think it's ordinary, is completely extraordinary for the people that only lived 100 years ago. It's like, even billionaires back then couldn't have your quality of life that you have right now, the tools that are available. And yet you concentrate on the car that's parked wrong.
Yeah.
And this is not a mental adjustment. This is kind of repetition adjustment. What you tell yourself regularly, what kind of music you think, what kind of, like, things you see, and again, bringing conscious idea of being thankful. So here, on the way here, Mr. Kirchev was driving, and very thankful Mr. Kirchev drove me here. He cut off the line at one of the intersections to make a left turn. So if you didn't cut off the line, we would have made two lights. I had to wait. Mr. Kirchev was experienced enough to cut off the line. And this is an opportunity where you kind of like, okay, nobody kind of horned at us or protested, and we kind of saved, I don't know, a few minutes, I don't know, five minutes maybe we saved.
Could be. maybe slightly more, but yeah, let's say 5 minutes.
I said, like, let's be thankful for at least half a minute. Yes, because 5 minutes will be fuming. Right? This is like additive. So in a sense that you're not going to experience all the effects right away. But yes, it's like, things go away. Make it a very conscious effort to say that you're thankful. When things don't go your way, try to remember how many times it did go your way or not your way. I mean, I would say that people holding the door for me when they see me running for the elevator is probably predominant pattern. So most people, when you see you running for the elevator, they hold the door.
Yeah.
It has happened that sometimes they don't hold it, but that's rarity.
Rare, yeah. Most people would, when they see that you're in a hurry or you're gonna catch the elevator, you raise your hand or something, and they hold it.
Yeah. So it's not hell.
But at one event.
Yeah. But yes, but we really focus on those things. So we're not statistically correct. Everything that you see in this world, you're probably going to see some sort of a very explosive kind of improvement in all areas. And this has various implications for, like, young people, for everybody. It's very difficult when you see like older clients and they say, Nikolay, I feel very uncertain about the world. I feel that, like, this world is like going to an end. I want to go super conservative. And there's really nothing you could do. It's like, you're not going to change the person's mind that the world's going to a better place, that Putin's not going to start a nuclear war. But the reality is, I've been living long enough, and I remember during the Cold War, for like many years, maybe for as long as 20 years, maybe even longer, there was a clock, and said nuclear explosion clock. And it was always like 2 to 5 minutes to midnight. It's like we die. Empirical evidence, empirical probability suggests if we were that close for like 20 years, nuclear war should have happened. So the way they measure how close we are to a nuclear disaster must be incorrect. If something hanging by a thread can be hanging by a thread for like 20 years, must be a magical thread. So yes, the reality is really to understand that you live in a world where your view is based on your perception. And your perception is dopamine, which means prone to extreme interpretations. And the extreme negative interpretation is much more common, which forces you to make extreme positive interpretation and to fall in love with something or to make a story about success. And the reality is the success will wear off. Whatever you define as a success, you are going to kind of like extend it. Two errors that other young traders have done it, and probably common. The first one is, Mr. Stoykov, I feel very confident that one day I'll be a very successful person. Really not sure that this necessarily be trading. I hope it is. But one day I'll be a very successful person. I feel very confident. What are you going to say about that, Mr. Kirchev?
Over-reliance on body sensations? Now that I know you.
Right. First one is going to say, in order to be successful in something, it's going to take 10 years. 7 to 10 years. So think very hard about this, what this thing is. Of course, you could be successful, but you have to be willing to invest 7 to 10 years. If you're going to switch around and this thing is not going to be trading, you're allowed to switch. But better not be that many switches. So it's like you're allowed to be successful in something else than trading. But that kind of mentality is very dangerous, because if you're not successful with trading, you're going to try something else, and then you're going to try something else. And once this becomes a pattern, you're not going to be successful. So whatever you're going to be successful is going to take at least 10 years. So think very hard what you're going to be successful at. And don't just throw all those things. And during those 10 years, there's going to be hardships. And this is like probably a story that's probably good. So this happened in my first year when I was like on the American Stock Exchange. Imagine there is this trader name is Michael. Michael is not African, Italian American from probably Staten Island. He wears a lot of gel in his hair. Has a cross, like a few jewelry. Typical Italian guy, right? Loud speaking and so forth. John he's one of his assistants, one of his senior assistants. He has a few assistants. Probably Irish guy somewhere from Midwest. My guess is Chicago somewhere. Anyway, one day, I don't know what John did, but Michael got extremely upset. He started screaming at him, and this is occurring on the exchange. So there's like 200 people that may be around observing this. And Michael says, "You're fired."
Oh, he fired him.
I said, "John, get the fuck out of here. You're fired. Done. That's it. Over." John slowly picks his tail between his legs and starts walking towards the end of the stand. And he has his, I guess, coat. And one of the older people that were there, part of the same company, was Spear Leeds Kellogg. So they were trading for SLK. They were specialists in SPY ETF. At the time, it was only listed on Amex. Anyway, the older people holding John. Say, don't take a jacket. Don't go. And Michael does his thing. It's a busy. There are other assistants that are taking Job's place and stuff like that. Once in a while, he turns to John and says, "What the fuck you doing here? Told you to get out. Fired. That's it. What do you want? You're done. Never want to see you." Again goes to like pick his jacket, and people stop him 2-3 times, and he stayed there for like 2 hours. This happened maybe like 1:30, 2 o'clock, and the market closes at like 4:15. So he stayed there the entire time
until the market closed.
Market closed. It was very interesting to see. I said like, I wonder if John will come to work tomorrow. And John came to work.
He came?
He came. And everything was just like before.
So what did that guy do?
I don't know.
Nothing? He said nothing?
I don't know. He didn't explain to them. They must have spoken something. But yeah, he fired him, and
he continued to work for him.
He continued to work, and then I guess he didn't fire him. You're gonna have days like that. You're gonna have days like that, and if you stay after a day like that, you have a good chance of making a career in trading.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's brutal. That is brutal. Continuously telling him, get the fuck out of here, and so on and so forth.
The most important thing is he didn't say anything you're not going to tell yourself during bad trading.
True.
So you're gonna
curse at yourself.
You're gonna tell yourself much worse things.
Yeah.
So if you decided that you like this thing, trading or investing, even though once in a while you have days like that, well, you like it. But you only here for the good times. Well, maybe this is not the career. Yeah, I mean, this is like the most important thing. You need to like see everything. So it's like you need to see everything, and you're gonna have days like that. I remember one of my jobs. I'm not gonna say which one. My boss threw a telephone at me. I remember I picked up the phone and I gave it back to him, and I said, "Do you want to try this again? And maybe if you hit me with the phone, I would understand what you're upset about." And then he kind of came to his senses. Again, like, I mean, you're going to have dramatic moments like that. And dramatic moments are not something to overreact. Not something to overreact. A pattern is not once. A pattern is something that occurs a few times. Yeah, he just fired him once. That's it. It doesn't mean he's fired. I mean, the most important thing is that John really cared. And again, I don't know what he made. He probably cost Michael money. And the only reasonable explanation that I see. So he made a mistake. But the reality is, in training, everybody's going to make a mistake. And this may be a stupid mistake, something that, was not expected to make. But the reality, you're going to make mistakes. And this is where you learn that, look, there are no unforgivable mistakes. They're just mistakes. And yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like we keep holding people to being perfect standards and stuff like that. But the reality is they're not. They're not. They're just mistakes. Again, we'll go to one more example, which gives you a different perspective. So this is a common example from Alcoholics Anonymous. An alcoholic will experience urges, let's say in a situation where his boss comes to criticize him in front of others rather harshly and unfairly. The alcoholic would feel resentment towards his boss. In about 15 minutes, he'll feel irresistible urge to drink. The correct view for this one is everything passes, which means you imagine that person dead. So your boss is going to die. So this is this is really like in the idea of death. Everything lives in you. So the reality is everything passes away, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, which means your excitement will pass away, your negativity will pass away. The other interesting thing that happens is we think that we'll never experience negativity. You all want to work for a company where bosses treats you correctly, gives you correct bonus on time, and is always ethical and understanding about your shortcomings. Those companies are too good, and they probably went out of business. The reality is, if you don't like working for somebody, you start your own company, and then you're going to experience negativity working if your business is going to be. So 50% of the time, you feel less than happy. Period.
And not many people are ready to take that, accept it, not just take it, accept it.
Yeah, because the reason why you don't take it is because even during the times that you're happy, you constantly think about something that's negative. So it's even though 50% of the time things are good, you remember when things are bad. And so you bring negativity even when it's not there.
Yeah.
Even when it's not there. And yes, so the answer to all those things that this is incredibly stressful and makes you, and again, this is patterns of things that are right. This is an example I said to one of the traders, he came to visit me and said, okay, so if you do the following pattern, you buy S&P, and S&P is pretty easy to buy, and you probably will beat over the long run majority of money managers. I said, imagine the following scenario: you buy S&P with 25% leverage. If the S&P, let's say in my experience over the next 3 years, has expectancy of 12%, if you buy 25% leverage to that, after the cost of leverage, you get 13.5%. With this 13.5%, you probably even beat more, money managers. If you do it for NASDAQ, you probably get like, I don't know, between 17 and 18%. So if you do NASDAQ, expected earnings are probably 14, 15%. Historically, it's around 17. Yeah, it could be like 18 to 20% per year. The idea behind the 25% leverage is that you, in kind of simulations or kind of historical studies, you've never breached that point. So if you buy 25% leverage, you never have to add more leverage to it. Like you could. Even if you buy 2008, if you use only 25% leverage, even if the market halves, you're never asked to bring more leverage.
Yeah.
You beat a lot of the market makers. Nobody in the history of civilization has ever, over historical period, delivered returns higher than 2 times the market. So what is available in the long run for your career is probably 2 times your benchmark. And what's your benchmark? Benchmark probably could be S&P, which is, let's say, 12%. So Mr. Buffett has never beaten S&P more than 2 times. NASDAQ or something like that. But the reality is people buy triple Q ETFs. Nobody has ever beaten NASDAQ by 3 times consistently. Moreover, with kind of like with this like triple Q ETFs, you always have to bring more leverage. So it's like if you don't have enough kind of capital on the side to potentially attribute to reinvest in the position to keep it, what's going to occur is that you'll be forced to liquidate. It's probably the worst things. So in reality, what happens is you way outside any historical patterns, and you're invariably going to bring all negative emotions on your positions. So there's like very finite distributions that are available as an investor if you're not choosing to like trade the spread. And if you go outside those parameters, invariably something bad will happen. So yeah, I mean, the good news about this is you're going to learn that's probably impossible. So everything is a flip coin. But yeah, like, you know, people really study in this. They really start with the idea you can make money every day. Sure, you can make money every day. You can make money in 10,000 stocks. Sure, you can make money in 10,000.
Plenty.
But how many people have done that? And consistently made it. So yeah, like again, and the reason why I start with those outlandish ideas is because you really crave quick success to end your miserable existence on this earth. And there's no such thing as quick success. It's like 7 to 10 years minimum. And your miserable existence would not change if even if you achieve success.
You want something else, that something else is not going to come, and you're going to be even more miserable.
And you have a habit of being unthankful bastard. That's what you are. That's what everybody is. That's what everybody is. It's a natural state of human being to be unthankful. Thankfulness is something you cultivate. But you cultivate it after you're sure that unthankfulness is not the way.
Oh, it's much easier to be unthankful.
Yeah.
Like you said.
What do you say, Mr. Kirchev?
So, totally agree with everything. As usual, it's a lot easier to go boxing, you know?
Yeah, go fuck you. I won't do what you tell me.
Yeah. Maybe only after you go boxing and you land in such a situation, then you realize you need to run or meditate.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other way. At least that was my path. It's like, as I said, like, you're thrown into New York and it really feels like every kind gesture is being punished. You make room for people to pass you, they stand, take your spot. You can't try to be kind when kind of like trying to take the trade, and the people like, you know, forget about you. And all those things stay, and they start maybe you should do something about this.
Especially if somebody doesn't hold the door for you at the elevator, you're like,
yeah,
now I'm gonna stop holding the door for others.
Fucking press the button to close it.
Exactly.
But yes, the truth is, those are overreactive tendencies that are based on kind of natural state of mind of your nervous system. The important thing is to realize is, hey, I cannot rely on my nervous system so much. My nervous system is a terrorist. It has terroristic qualities. It really wants to kill 98% of the people that you come in contact with, or you feel they're absolutely hopeless. And the 2% are usually women that you want to lock in your bedroom and have sex whenever you want. That's what you want, naturally. This is kind of the paradise for you, if you're a man, I guess.
Yeah.
With a few Porsches and Lambos, I don't know, Maybachs, whatever, other cars or planes, whatever else. But yeah, this is your definition of heaven. And this is clearly childish. It's clearly childish. I mean, the most important thing is, this is I realized one of the summers, I have a summer house here in the beach, and there was this young girl, maybe 5, 6, and she was kind of standing close to me, on the beach. And she was asking her mother, Mommy, will I be a princess one day and live in a castle? And in a palace, I'm sorry. And the mother was on the phone and she said, yeah, honey, you'll be a princess and you live in a castle or palace. And the most important thing is to realize, if you're a man, you probably didn't ask your mother or father. You kind of kept it to yourself that you're going to have a Lambo and a harem of girls. This is typical what you think at the age of 5 or 7, right? I mean, probably. Yeah.
Fast cars,
yeah,
many
fast
girlfriends.
Cars, many girls, yeah. Of course. What else? Pay attention that all the things you believed at the age of 5 or 7 changed. You probably believed in Santa Claus. There's no Santa Claus. Everything got so complicated. Your understanding, your ability, you couldn't probably even add digits correctly then. You could do equations nowadays. You could really all kinds of math and stuff like that, or understand very complex things. But that idea of what happiness is remarkably didn't experience too many transformations. Your idea of what would make you happy, what heaven should look like, pretty much stayed for both men and women what they wanted at the age of 5 or 7.
Both men and women.
Yeah, both men and women. That's clearly to be examined.
Definitely. Now that you say it, definitely. Women still want to be princesses, to live in mansions,
to make. I mean, the thing about the prince that the women. I joke this with our female colleagues, is your magical prince has gay tendencies. He's always understanding and willing to share his feelings. That's not what men do. I mean, we can learn to get better at sharing, but this is not natural thing. So yeah, again, the reason why people do that is, again, this you create a value. You value that thing. This is a world, a potential world you created at the age of 5, and you diligently protect it.
Yeah.
Diligently protect it and hope that one day it happens. And the reason why you do that is because this was there first. and you have nothing to replace it with, nothing better. And the reality is, we need to give you something better. And this is like, really something to think. The reason, it really starts with improving your sleep. I cannot tell you how much more I value good sleep now that I sleep well. Again, try not sleeping for a few days and see if anything else but sleep can make you happy.
No, nothing. Even
Eva Moratti.
Eva Moratti.
Yeah, it's like,
Not gonna be able to do anything with her if you didn't sleep.
Yeah, if you didn't sleep. So the reality is not necessarily inventing stuff that's not there. Even though, like, this kind of idea of thankfulness for your breath is kind of like maybe what you're doing, is paying attention. It's like, hey, when I need to be out, what is really important? Sleep is essential. Sleep is essential. The reason why you don't value it is because you don't sleep well. If you begin to sleep well and you begin to realize all this negativity is costing you, like, good sleep, you certainly change because you know what you're missing. But if you habitually sleep bad, all this behavior like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, motherfucker, what the fuck, you know what it costs you. It's like, until you know what it costs you, you're not as motivated to change your behavior. So yeah, it's small steps. And in my experience, it really starts, in my path, it starts with your sleep. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it starts with the sleep. So sleep's more important than training to me. It's like, yeah.
It's a foundation.
It's a foundation. I say to myself, like, market goes against me. I say, Nikolay, we will sleep well. Forget about this market. It's like, if you made money, like, how long you going to be happy? Half an hour. And then you're going to think that you're going to need to make more money. So yeah, do the wise thing. Don't take excessive risks and trust that what you're doing things right, things are going to eventually reverse. But hoping that the market's going to make you happy, are you insane? When does that happen? For how long?
Yeah.
I mean, people really, yeah, it's like virtually.
No, you earn money, it makes you happy, but it's not sustainable.
Right. Yeah. Virtually, we tell ourselves stories and we really examine how ridiculous those stories are. And we don't pay attention to the real stuff. And this is excessively, basically knowing that, hey, naturally a human being is an unthankful bastard. That's how your nervous system just hyperventilate. Your nervous system is terroristic, and it starts with like kind of small containment and kind of like paying attention. Is it really that bad? Is it really that bad? Is it always gonna be like that? It's like, and then observing the data. I mean, the data is incredibly positive, and all I hear about my life is how world is falling apart. How world is falling. And this is maybe the last example. So this really happened like to me. So we are based like around high schools. There's a few high schools. And back in the days when we were in high schools, we had to wear uniforms, so we couldn't walk. It seems like they changed the standard, and people are wearing tracksuits nowadays to school, at least the schools that are around. So I remember getting lunch and I seeing this girl with jeans and a tank top, and her tits are hanging out, basically. Like, she's well endowed. And with the tank top, like, tits are hanging out. She was with a guy that's wearing tracksuit, and he is kind of roll over his right side of the trouser to show his ankle, and there is a tattoo. Probably 16, 17, something like that age, would say. Immediately I get, wow, this is a slut, and this guy, I don't know what to mean.
Drug addict.
Yeah, whatever. And I think to say, Nikolay, you're hyperventilating. So just because this woman looks like a slut, this young woman looks like a slut, she doesn't mean she's a slut. And once she gets pregnant by that guy that's kind of with the tattoo on his ankle, she's gonna beat him up with like, pots and pans to cut his hair, and he's gonna put some pants and shirt, and he's gonna go for an interview and get a job. And that's been happening for as long as the world goes around. So just because teenagers look more excessive right now, and they're like a little bit higher standard deviations than what I'm used, progress of behavior is pretty predictable. That that probably they're not gonna be kind of like deadbeats, and she's probably not like a bad mother just because she's like wearing a tank top and tits are hanging out. And I'm not used to that, like, when I was in high school. It's just a small difference. And that small difference I projected and make it like a huge thing, and refuse to believe that those people would ever change and they're any good for anything. Right.
Yeah. Quick to judge.
Yeah. How do you feel? Do you feel depressed now?
Not gonna lie, yeah, I do. Mostly because we do these things subconsciously every day.
Yeah.
These mistakes. Fuck you, motherfucker. And, I was getting in the building today, and I got annoyed because, when we check in with our entrance cards, so I heard the elevator closing, but the sound of the entrance checking is loud. Yeah. So I was like, all right, so
they should hold it.
They should have held it because they heard the clicking sound. But why didn't they hold it?
But maybe they thought that a person was getting out.
I didn't think of it.
Yeah, you sure? We always sure that people saw us, that people heard us, and that they were not in a hurry.
Yeah.
Yeah, the important thing is like really examine it consciously, all the possible outcomes. The first outcome, this happens with trading. Your first idea is very extreme. It needs to be refined. So it's like you go over and over and over all the possible outcomes. And the reality is like, how often has the opposite happened? And then is it really that important? Is it really that important?
More often than not. More often than not, it's not that important.
Well, you won't look to be on the side in other areas. If I miss all the elevators at a close call for the rest of my life, but this luck comes somewhere else, I'm okay.
All right.
But truth is probabilistics, which means you're not gonna miss all the ones. So do you think that the elevator you're missing the worst 95 case scenario? No, you're probably between 40-60. So yeah, you're hyperventilating. You want to win all the time. You want to sunny and 25 Celsius all the time. It's normal. That's normal.
Yeah.
This is like maybe final one. This is like happened when I was telling it to one of the traders. He liked it probably. So I was going out in New York City, and this very beautiful Russian woman, Anastasia, Nastya, and maybe I was a little bit drunk, and I said like, Nastya, you're really stunning. I'm not trying to hit on you. Maybe I am a little bit, but you're really stunning. Nastya said like, thank you, Nikolay, but I don't think so. I said to her, you don't think so? This is not a matter of opinion. I mean, you're beautiful and tall, and she says like, yeah, but my tits are small.
My breasts, yeah.
It's small.
I
haven't seen them, but they're not big, but the reason why they're not big is because you're thin. It's like if you're too big, you have backache. And she's like, yeah, but there's some girls that have big tits even though they're thin. I said, but those girls don't have your facial features, don't have my hair. And she's like, oh, my hair. It's like, what's wrong with your hair? California golden blonde. It's like, your hair is beautiful. She's like, but blondes are dumb. And I said, so what kind of color you want? She's like, pitch black. That's classic. And I said to her, let me get that straight. So there are days that you like being yourself because you'd be very beautiful. And you know.
Yeah.
And then there are days that you want to be a brunette with big tits. And the days you probably want to be a redhead. And she says, yeah, what's wrong with that?
Just called schizophrenia.
I don't know what to tell you. There might be nothing. I mean, that's the idea of happiness. It's like, if you allow your nervous system to tell you what you need to be happy, this is what's going to invariably happen. Yeah. Conscious effort to find thankfulness in all or majority of your daily experiences. And not to depend on like what the market does. What the market does will not make you happy. Whatever Murati does will not make you happy. You're just projecting it. Because you see negativity everywhere, you curse everywhere, your nervous system thinks you live in hell and is desperately looking for a way out. Projecting things. So like, those way outs are neutral, they're not there. The way out is like, finding the proper balance. Consciously bringing thankfulness. Cultivating thankfulness.
Thankfulness.
That's it, I think.
All right.
Like and subscribe.
Yes, if you enjoyed the new format, if you have any questions for us, let us know. Please like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. It's going to help us grow. Thank you so much for watching.
All right. Thank you so much, too.